Hello guys, the more I watch the news, read the comments, the more I realize that many of you actually want security guarantees from Ukraine more than those of NATO or the United States. And this makes me feel both proud and a little bit frightened. Well, proud because finally the world sees Ukraine is a strong country. You should not underestimate us. We are super determined, we are brave, and we know a lot about the modern warfare. But I'm also a little bit frightened because I understand that you also understand that there are no adults in this global politics, just tacos and escalation managers. And this is a bad timing, taking into account how effectively authoritarian regimes of Russia, China, North Korea, and even Iran cooperate, trying to destroy our civilization. So, to make us all feel a little bit better, I've decided to dedicate this video to the precision strikes of the Ukrainian armed forces that, in these couple of days, demilitarized a lot of evil objects of the Russian army, both inside the Russian Federation and on the temporarily occupied territories. Because guys, I hope that our politicians will also understand that one day, well, Ukrainians do understand the only working peace plan is to defeat Russia. Trust me, Russia needs that too. And also in the second part of the video, I will tell you a little bit more of what I think about Kellogg's visit to Lukashenko and the release of Tikhanovsky, the husband of the opposition leader of Belarus, who was actually the main opposition leader before he was imprisoned. My name is Anna, I'm from Ukraine, I'm in Ukraine, and if you want to see the collapse of the Kremlin regime, subscribe, we will discuss that on the channel with champagne, I hope sometime soon. So, during this week, the Ukrainian armed forces were the most effective in implementing the peace plan. Every time Trump says 2 weeks, we know we are alone against this evil. Unfortunately, Ukraine has to respect this decision. What makes me super angry is that a lot of media say that Ukraine is restricted to target Russian oil refineries, and you know how effective this strategy is when Russia is not restricted at all, and Trump constantly gives them more time, more opportunities to target Ukrainian homes. This is very wrong. Some of you will tell you don't have to listen to Trump, but unfortunately, right now we are very dependent on intelligence sharing, which is impossible without the United States, and that is perhaps the only reason why we follow this very destructive advice. So, with these limited resources, with the understanding that we have to rely on ourselves, we achieve a lot. First of all, the president understands that we need to invest more and more in the development of Ukrainian drones and missiles. I'm very grateful to the European partners who understand that the danger of the global war is really close, especially after Putin's press conference, where he states that all of the Ukraine belongs to him, all of the former Soviet countries belong to him, and even Erdogan begins the production of missiles, like the growing production of the missiles. So more and more countries actually want to produce weapons together with Ukraine. Such news come from Germany, from France, and that is a good and very promising decision. And right now, with our drones, with our missiles, we achieve a lot. First of all, these days, a lot of Russian radars, air defense systems were neutralized, the ones located close to the front lines. Also, important news came from KURSK region. The towns of Lvov and Tyotkino now are actively used by the Russian army for training of the assault groups. And as we don't want any Russian assault groups on the Ukrainian territory, we keep neutralizing them on the Russian side. This is the strategy that Russia supported, because during this 3.5 years of Putin's blitzkrieg, they have already sacrificed more than 1 million of their soldiers. Subscribe to see the collapse of the Russian regime and hopefully the liberation of more people, more prisoners of war, more political prisoners, even though there are not many in Russia these days. So when Trump says 2 weeks, you have to realize that during these 2 weeks, a lot of things happened. Starting from some good, more and more of the Russian military objects neutralized, but also a lot of bad things, like Kyiv targeted with missiles and drones and dozens of civilians killed in their beds at night. That is a sin, and that is something that I will never forgive to those people who support this weakness, this indecisiveness from the side of our allies. Right now, as a Ukrainian, I'm angry at the White House that became the mouthpiece of the Kremlin. I'm angry at the coalition of the willing that turned out to be the coalition of the observing. And I'm very grateful to you people, because you are the power. You change a lot. Starting from our campaigns that help us with trucks and drones, and finishing with this influence that you have on your politicians, on the political decisions inside of your country. So to make you more optimistic, I will also tell you that a huge arsenal was destroyed in Donetsk region, temporarily occupied by Russia, and Ukrainian drones reached Tula in Russia and damaged a plant that produced high-precision weapons and air defense systems. You know, Russia is in great trouble with their air defense systems. They did not predict the war would return back home to Russia, where it belongs. And by paralyzing such facilities, we actually make this Russian air defense systems even more vulnerable, fewer, and hopefully more and more airports will be closed, so that more and more of the Russian population, while being undamaged and unhurt, will still receive these messages that Putin brought war back home. You cheered for that, now you have it in the dozens of the Russian regions. Also, there was a fire on the military plant in Volgograd, maybe sabotage, maybe Ukrainian drone landing, and a Russian convoy in the direction of Konstantinivka, that is temporarily occupied Ukrainian lands. A huge convoy consisting of 23 various vehicles, heavy equipment, BMPs and tanks was neutralized. And as it is a modern war, you have a lot of videos demonstrating how Russian plans failed. So this is great, because this demonstrates our determination. No one is prepared to surrender here, because in Ukraine we know really well Russia wants to destroy our nation, our culture. We experienced that in times of the Soviet occupation, and we don't want to pass it on to the next generations of Ukrainians. And no, this war was not provoked by NATO. And if you want to have more arguments to understand how fake this Russian narrative that they keep repeating right now, watch my new video on channel Anna Danilchuk, where I tell you everything about Ukraine and NATO, how we feel about this alliance, did our attitudes change since the start of the full-scale invasion, and why it's total BS when Russia says that that is a defensive war, and then Putin openly repeats that, no, we want all of the Ukraine because Ukraine is just Russia. No, guys. You see this tremendous civilizational gap between our nations. And in this context, it's so humiliating to watch how Donald Trump keeps pretending that the negotiation process is successful. There are no negotiations between Russia and Ukraine. Trump will not receive Nobel Prize. Please, someone tell him. Then Russia uses this limit IQ of the American president to keep targeting Ukrainian cities, to paralyze new sanctions because Trump believes he's idol Putin, and actually to making Trump accomplice of the war crimes that Russia commits on a daily basis here in Ukraine. And 2 weeks will not decide anything. That is why I was very disgusted to see that Kellogg traveled to Belarus to legitimize, to break this diplomatic isolation of another war criminal, Lukashenko, self-proclaimed totally illegal president. They shook hands. Was that important? They released Tikhanovsky, the husband of the now known oppositioner, whom I do not support much because I believe she's more of a political tourist, not working hard for the consolidation of the Belarus diaspora, of those amazing Belarus volunteers who now fight in Ukraine. And when you talk to the Belarus soldiers on the Ukrainian front lines, they don't see any leadership from Tikhanovskaya's side. Maybe her husband, who was actually the presidential candidate and who was imprisoned, and his imprisonment led to her political career, maybe he will show different attitude. But I don't know. I am very suspicious such things, because if he was truly dangerous for Lukashenko regime, I think they would not release him. That is a gesture towards Kellogg, towards his unnecessary, humiliating for Ukraine visit to Belarus. And like all these men who should have been, like respected veterans like Kellogg, instead of speaking the truth, travel to Belarus and hug that dinosaur of European dictatorship on the Soviet carpets. Let me know, what do you think about that? And do you feel offended just like I do? Because that's important for me here now in Ukraine, that is targeted with Russian drones on a daily basis every night, so that I need to close my windows not to hear the sound and to be able to sleep, because you cannot remain without sleeping for months that Trump will give to Putin to terrorize us, describing it as the negotiations process. Simply disgusting. Thank you so much for your support and understanding. Please share these videos if you share my opinion, and also follow me on X, Instagram, Blue Sky, Threads, and join the Discord. Check the merch shop, the link is in the description of this video, for lots of good items that work well as reminders and conversation starters about Ukraine, and trust me, we need that a lot right now. Thank you for buying me coffees, becoming my patrons and sponsors of the channel, and most importantly, thank you for standing with Ukraine. Slava Ukraini!